So good morning. I'm Scott Arnett with CA Technologies. I am really glad to see this many people out on a Friday after a long conference. Impressive, especially after Thursday night gets a little crazy around Vegas. But I want to talk to you a little bit about, actually I'm very excited to talk to you a little bit about a solution that we have from CA Technologies for System Z, for the mainframe. So I always like to get to know my audience a little bit first. So I wanted to just kind of do a little raise of hand. If you could tell me if you have a mainframe in your shop today. If you do, raise your hand, or you work near a mainframe. I know yeah. So or do you outsource to someone that manages your mainframe for you? Okay. What about storage? This is a storage track, of course. And so tell me about tape silos. Any of you have either virtual or physical tape silos? Raise your hand, see a few here. Okay, so good. So you're in the right session. So I was debating about humor for this session with a colleague of mine, and he was telling me how he watched a Modern Family episode where the husband and wife were going back and forth about whether or not the guy should do humor in his session, and I think she ended up winning and he didn't do humor because humor doesn't fly well. So I'm going to try to stick away from the humor, although that's in my nature. But I couldn't resist. So those of you that do have tape in your shops or outsourced tapes, then this might be of interest to you. This is a security truck in Britain, and I just wanted to show you real quick. This could be your tapes. His door is wide open, driving down the road, stuff flying out. So people think that the mainframe tape data is secure and more secure than the cloud, but that may not be the case. In this case, maybe not so much. So CA Technologies is the largest independent software provider of mainframe software in the world. And so just a little bit about us as a company. Our vision, we have a pretty new CEO who is adamant that we will support and move toward managing complex hybrid cloud environments. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today and how we can help our customers do that. We know that the dynamic data center is something that is growing and that there is that complexity. There's not a single solution where you're off-premise or on-premise. You're going to have a little bit of both of that. And so we're working toward helping manage that complexity in the dynamic data center that's changing ever so fastly. So just a little bit of market background here. And so you may have seen some of this in some of the other cloud sessions. But one of the key ones here is that the second bullet there, and that 80% of CIOs are really believing the mainframe is here to stay, and it's going to be part of their cloud strategy. So it's not going to be all distributed. And that's an interesting point to note, that it is relevant in the cloud strategy, and we continue to make it relevant as CA Technologies supports the cloud. And then, of course, partnering with someone like an Amazon Web Services and Amazon Glacier is obviously the right thing to do in this industry, and since they're one of the leaders in disaster and backup recovery. So there's some legal stuff for you. I'll just go ahead and skip through that. So those of you that know mainframe, which seem like most of you do, the name of the game in mainframe is MIPS, multiple millions of instructions per second is what MIPS stands for. And this is how IBM charges for the mainframe. So this is their billing mechanism. So how many ever MIPS per second, or how many ever MIPS that your shop uses on the mainframe is how they bill you in your processors. And so our goal as a leading software provider is to help you kind of offset some of that usage, and to help provide solutions that help you negate some of the MIPS usage. So 21 million MIPS worldwide is a pretty large number of MIPS. And of course it continues to grow. So in this space, there's 4 big players. I won't name them, but we're one of the 4. And within that, Gartner has rated us a strong positive year after year. And that's as high as that the ratings get for Gartner. They don't tend to side or partner with they're very neutral in their ratings. And so that's good for CA. So I just wanted to point that out, that that we're here to stay and that we're here to support this growth in the cloud industry. So just a little bit more background about us and about our market space. We are definitely playing with the top customers in the Fortune 1000 market today. You can see here that we empower the global business. If there's any kind of large corporation around the globe, they tend to have some sort of CA technology software. The global banks, federal agencies, top pharmaceuticals, military, you name it, we're across the major verticals in the market space. So we have a strong breadth and reach across the market from a company perspective. And within the market space that we do play in, we lead this market year over year. So we're either in the number 1 or the number 2 space within those particular market areas, data protection and recovery being one of those that we will talk more about today, of course. So this is what I was talking about earlier, managing the complexity in your dynamic data center. So how do you do that? I think everybody struggles with that today. There's the hybrid, the in the cloud, the on-premise. What do you do here? How do you solve this? And that's our goal, is just, we see this as an opportunity, not as a challenge, to excel. And we have every intention of innovating against the mainframe. That is one thing that I failed to mention, is that of the 4 big providers, reason why we're rated so highly with Gartner is because we do have a vision with the mainframe. We have a long-term vision of how we will innovate and grow and use the mainframe and leverage it to support the growing trends in the industry. So just, again, some more statistics for you. We're looking at the large growth of enterprise applications in the cloud. We're seeing that 58% of the mainframe, 58% of the market sees the mainframe as critical for the cloud, which is good because we think it's a valuable tool. We also understand that the mainframe is a strategic play for the particular IT shops as far as it's concerned in the cloud. So I'm going to skip that one real quick and jump right into the solution here. So what we have here is a discussion around tape. Tape is critical in the backup and recovery market for the mainframe. So I wanted to just talk about a few facts around tape and how it plays and the types of data and workload that it carries. This is really kind of a summary of that. But you can see that we do have a lot of data being written, over a terabyte per hour in peak hours from some shops, and exceeding petabytes at rest, which is always a nice challenge to have, to figure out how to store that, whether it be on-prem, off-prem, public cloud, private cloud, hybrid. And we also are utilizing, the mainframe is being utilized for not only backup and archival, but also for work and production type data. So some history on tape in the mainframe storage industry. I'm just going to scroll this across here. But tape's come a long way, or storage has come a long way, and tape has really been a keystone for that. You go all the way back to the 60s, where you're writing batch jobs to go ahead and push the data off, and now we move to automatic tape loaders, and then you have these big giant silos. So whenever you look in the textbooks or you see a picture of a mainframe, you typically see this big silo robot arm moving around and moving tapes around. So that's kind of the auto tape library in the silo. And then in the 2000 time frame, the virtual tape came into play because people started seeing the value of not having the tapes on premise, and then the understanding that the footprint of their data center was too big, and it was time to figure out a way to minimize that footprint. Now, throughout that time, the virtual tape piece of this was kind of short-lived because folks really didn't adopt it well and ended up coming back and leaning back on the tape piece of that. So we still have tapes lying around the data center, so we have folks that are really in a hybrid state. They have virtual tape, they have tape on site, and they also have outsourcers where they're shipping tape off-site, so as a backup disaster recovery plan. And then we move on into today, where we're pointing at and where we're heading with partners like AWS and Riverbed Technologies, is storage in the cloud. And so that's what I want to talk to you a little bit more about. So again, the description that I just gave you was around kind of what a data center might look like. This is a traditional. Now everybody's going to be somewhat different, but this is a pretty complex environment, and not only that, it's expensive. And if you look at this environment, you're going to see that that you have these giant tape robots on here, the silos that are off to the left there. I'll show you on my cursor here. And these guys are running in $750,000 in some cases, and in most cases, most shops want to duplicate that for disaster recovery, redundancy, and so forth. So it becomes quite an expensive proposition. Those things are about as big, some of them are about as big as the stage that I'm standing on here, if you go look and stand by them in person. So they're not small, and they stand up, pretty high, and they got these little robot arms inside them that go back and forth. And so there's that, plus you have your mainframe, which is not a small piece of equipment either. On top of that, you have some kind of DASD subsystem, whether it be physical DASD, which is not as popular anymore, but more of a virtual DASD type equipment, in your shop, which is also a pretty large box. So all of this together makes for a very complex, very expensive proposition when it comes to how you manage your storage. And then I had to throw my little truck in there to show that for some of those that you have physical tape, you're probably paying to ship those off-site, and it may cost a little bit of money to get those back, and it's probably not going to be a very timely recovery time for you. So this is where we're heading, though. Today I want to talk to you about a product that we just launched on 11/12/13. That was a great date, right? So CA Cloud Storage for System Z is an innovative solution for the mainframe. And working with partners like Riverbed, like Amazon Web Services, we were able to accomplish a vision in a very quick, very seamless way with best-of-breed technologies from both our partners, and then quickly allow our customers to take data from the mainframe, from System Z, which is no small feat, and then move it off to the cloud. So that's pretty neat. And the good news about it is we figured out a way with our partners to really scale down the size of the data using deduplication methods through Riverbed. And so that way, the expanded data coming out of the mainframe, which is typically quite large, as I mentioned earlier, petabytes sometimes, you can dedupe that up to a factor of 7 times in some cases, and sometimes 10. And so what that allows us to do is really make that more efficient as we pipe it across to the Amazon Web Services cloud. So it's very exciting, and we've also taken advantage of Linux on Z to make this happen. And one of the reasons for that is, I'll go back to the slide I showed you earlier where we talked about MIPS being the major billing mechanism for IBM and how they achieve great amounts of revenue from their customers. So Z-Linux runs in an environment that is basically off-platform. It doesn't use the central processor, so therefore it doesn't burn the millions of instructions per second. And we're able to offload the work that we're doing when we're downloading that tape through that Z-Linux environment on in through a standard OSA card that you probably have lying around your shop, using channel-to-channel connectors. Again, probably mostly standard around data center floors, into this distributed device, whether it be an NFS or an NAS, we can use either. In this case, we have Riverbed. And then the data is deduplicated, encrypted. In this case, Riverbed allows you to keep the keys. So if you're a consumer and you're worried about security, that data can be, the keys to the data after it's encrypted could stay on your side with you. So that's a pretty awesome thing as well. and then the data is piped across through Amazon, who then in turn encrypts it yet again, and then stores it. And Amazon Glacier, I think most of you know from being at the conference, is an extremely cheap storage mechanism, about a penny per gig, and it's great for long-term archival backup. And then, of course, there's S3 as an option where you can pull back data a little more quickly if you want. And we support both of those mechanisms, and you can have a hybrid of that as well. So I'm going to show you a little demo here in just a second. I've got a recording of a demo at least. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do first, the steps that we're going to take, and then I'll show you the demo. So the backstory here is a scenario where we have Bill, the administrator, the storage administrator, and he works for a large pharmaceutical company. They store lots of long-term data because they work in the health industry. They constantly do studies on drugs, and because of federal regulation, they're required to keep the data around that for years, many years, plus 50, plus 75, plus 100, depending on the regulation. And so they have a great need to be able to backstore this data and to not really have that lying around on their floor of their shop. They're using cloud storage for System Z in this case. And so luckily for them, when a scenario comes up when there's an issue, so let's say that Bill came into the office one day, or it's actually getting ready to be a holiday weekend, but this is the end of the quarter, and he sees an issue with storage. He's finding that there's a scenario where he has an over-allocated volume in his data, and he knows that, you know, as he's sleeping in the night, his automatic job batch process will probably go ahead and take care of that. But just for grins, he's going to go ahead and solve the problem manually. And I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. This would normally be done in the wee hours of the morning while you're sleeping. But I want to show you what Bill can do and how simple it can be for him to back up that data to the cloud using this CA cloud storage for System Z. So he's going to go in and see what the warning looks like in our Chorus, CA's Chorus technology, which is our platform for modernization of the mainframe. And we're going to use that to visualize what Bill is going to, the steps he's going to take to solve the problem. And it's going to be a very small set of steps. So he's going to select that volume, and he's going to choose the location for backup within storage. And then he's going to choose where he's going to store that data off to, or archive that data off to, so that he can clear up some space. And then he's going to access the storage gateway, which in this case will be Riverbed. And he's going to then watch as the data is transferred, and he's going to see the transfer rates, the deduplication rates, and monitor that and kind of smile because he's really happy at the deduplication rate that he gets. And then he'll see this complete. And then he can also then, if he wanted to get into the mainframe side of it, could go and check out the logs in the web admin for Z-Linux. So this is, again, kind of what it looks like. There's multiple ways to connect to Amazon Web Services. I think all of you have heard about Direct Connect. And this is kind of a quick slide of just showing you, again, the configuration that we've already demonstrated. And so now I'm going to go ahead and show you the demo. So in this case, we're going to, Bill's going to solve his problem, to make sure that he doesn't have an abend in the middle of the night, and he gets this call or a message, you know, warning him that he's got to figure out what to do. He's going to go ahead and research this volume, which he thinks is the problem volume for him, and it's CHR017. And so I'm going to start this video here, and we're going to watch as Bill solves the problem. So he sees the warning, and then he's going to go in and choose the volume. He sees that it's 83% allocated, where his threshold was 80%. He's going to go in and he's going to choose a backup tool, in this case our CA disk technology. He's going to choose the location where he's going to back this up to, in this case the cloud. And that's it. Then he's going to go and check and see what's going on the storage gateway, because the job's been kicked off now, and it's actually moving the data through our virtual tape solution on into the cloud. And here he's showing the cloud storage that he has available and free. and he's showing what's being taken up as he's processing. And then over there where the cursor's at right now, you can see the time left to transfer this data. I think this set was about a 9 gigabyte set, so it's not huge, so it won't take very long at all to push this up. You can see that we're connected to Amazon Glacier via this mechanism. And you can also see there that we're getting just about a 7 times deduplication rate. So if I've got a 96 terabyte Riverbed box sitting there, then I'm going to be able to dedupe about, geez, I don't know, over a petabyte of data into this and then ship it over to the cloud. And then you can see there where he's completed the data has completed. And then let's see here. So over on the, my screen is frozen, but that one's not. That's interesting. Okay. So what we just did is basically we logged into CA's Chorus tool. We were able then to kick off the data, kick off the job backup. We were able to choose the volume that we wanted to back up. Then we were able to access the storage gateway, which in this case is Riverbed Technologies. And then we were able to replicate it in near real time. And the data is stored on Riverbed in the caching mechanism as well as in the cloud. So you get two locations. And then problem averted, innovation delivered. Bills can go home and get some rest for the night and not have to worry about a scenario of a phone call. So just a quick blurb about Amazon Web Services. Not that you probably haven't heard enough about that this week. But the mainframe prides itself, those of you that have mainframes know that we pride ourselves on security. So we would only partner with those that are similar in compatibility, in goal, and in clarity around the type of security they want to provide. With Amazon S3 and Glacier, you're getting the 11 nines of durability, and of course you're getting that cheaper penny per gig. Now, the penny per gig is for the Amazon piece of that only. Of course, Riverbed and CA for the cloud storage for System Z are going to add some cost onto that, but in the end, the total cost of ownership can be still pennies per gigabyte per month. So still very cheap. And if you look at storage in the mainframe space today, depending on where you're storing, if you're storing off on disk, DASD, we call it direct access storage device, you can pay up to $55 per gigabyte of storage. Now we're talking about pennies per gigabyte of storage. So this is a huge game changer in the mainframe space, huge. I just can't emphasize that enough. And on top of that, it's secure. So when we're going through Riverbed, I mentioned earlier about the keys using AES 256 encryption. We don't need to dwell on this, but the data is totally secure, and you're getting to keep the keys on your side. You control it. Amazon doesn't have it. There's nobody over there out to get you. They're not going to grab your keys and try to dig into your data. And again, just another reinforcement of the security of the data at rest. So the data will be at rest in your Riverbed box as cache, so it has cache. So instant recall whenever you have that 96 terabyte box, as an example. They have smaller versions. And so whenever you go to recall your data, it's going to recall it from the Riverbed box first, rather than recalling it from the cloud. The whole point being that this is archive data we're talking about here, not a scenario where you're wanting to call a whole bunch of data back from Amazon. So you want to get it back from your caching. And we can help you configure that with Riverbed's help, and with Amazon's help, we can help you configure that and tweak it and tune it to where you maximize your investment there and the cost, minimize your cost. So at this point, I want to introduce you to one of my most demanding customers. His name is Mark Behrje, and he's going to talk to you a little bit. Rather than me standing up here and talking about more benefits, I wanted you to hear from him. I want you to hear a real-life case where someone has implemented this solution and where they are actually using this solution and are very happy with it, and I wanted him to tell you a little bit about what he plans to do. So Mark, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Mark Behrje. I'm Director of Platform Engineering within CA. That's part of the Global Information Services Division within CA. And CA Technologies is a company of about 14,000 employees spread across 45 countries. And for this particular environment, we have a mainframe landscape of about 25,000 MIPS spread across 2 sites, 3 mainframes in our primary site, 1 in our alternate site in Chicago. And backing the whole thing up, we have a large robotic system that's about 8,000 tapes, 50 tape drives, and a really cool robotic system that goes back and forth and zips and pops tapes in and out. Now, back in the day when I first got started, we used to have loads of tape drives and tape operators that went back and forth in the tape library. And when we got this thing in, it was the coolest technology to watch this robot go back and forth. It was amazing. What are we going to do with all these operators? You know what I mean? We really didn't know what to do with it. It was an awesome piece of technology back in the day. And even right now, when I take my kids through it and I show them the data center, they don't care about the lights. They like this robotic system going back and forth and watching all this stuff. All right? But, you know, there's got to be a little bit better of a way to do this, because we have tapes that go into it, they break, the tape drive has issues, the tapes come out, they go into a box, get shipped, sent off to Iron Mountain, get recalled from Iron Mountain, shipped to our DR site to come back. It's a very manual process. It's a high-risk process that involves a lot of manual labor, a lot of risk to data, and it is pretty costly when it comes down to it. When you think about the floor space, the power, the maintenance of tape drives, eventually you're going to get a new robotic system, et cetera. And so a number of years ago, we did begin to research the tapeless environment, which is where we went as well in a distributed environment. But although we nailed it down to a couple of vendors, we couldn't make the cost work. It just didn't, the ROI wasn't there. We had to continue to maintain our business, but we didn't have the capital funding. We had to keep the costs the same, and it was a little frustrating because we saw the benefit of getting away from the tapes, but there was nothing, we couldn't make it work financially. And when we first heard about this technology a number of months ago, the reaction was, really? We're going to send data to Amazon? Is it going to work? You know, that's our first reaction. Is this thing going to work? So we're excited about it. We brought them in, and right off the bat, we said, all right, is it secure? How's the data going to flow? Is it going to flow there? Are we going to bring the data back? Bring the data back from the cloud? How fast it's going to be? How's the replication going to be? Basically, the type of things you look at when you look at this type of solution. And right off the bat, the compression ratio for a mainframe, which is a bit new for us in the dedupe ratio. If you ever use dedupe solutions, the big mystery, at least within our organization, is it going to dedupe as well as, say, 1,000 Windows boxes or 500 AIX systems that all look like the same? And what we found is the dedupes were 4 to 1 on our first run, 5 to 1, 6 to 1, 8 to 1 as we began running this. And we came to the analogy that on the mainframe, data management is extremely efficient, so that data really doesn't change that much. When you back it up week to week, the compression ratio is going to be insane. So that worked without any issues. So does it replicate to the cloud, and how fast does it do it? And our first backup run of about a couple of terabytes ran in a couple of hours, and it was at most about a minute behind. So we never had an issue with, well, is it going to take a day? Is it going to take 2 days? What's it going to take to get out there? But once the data gets to the cloud, it's been compressed, it's been deduped, and it just fires right out there. And subsequent backup runs, it was seconds behind. As we increased our backup tests to about 8 or 9 terabytes per run, yeah, we saw the replication out to the Glacier space took about 4 hours, a little bit behind, 4 or 5 hours behind, which for us, instead of taking a truck and packaging it, still 4 hours is fantastic. Again, the next run, the dedupe ratio kicks in, and now, again, we're minutes, seconds behind. It's over in Glacier, as well as a copy in the local Riverbed appliance. And then the big final test is, all right, that's all well and good. Can we get the data back? Are we being able to see it? Is it going to work? And it took about 4 hours and, was it 37 minutes, and the data come back, and that was the big pat on the back. This is the way to go. This is what we're going to do. That's where we're at today. So our backup runs pretty much match what we ran to tape, but we know we could do a lot better. We know the performance can run at least half of what we're running today, so we're moving forward. I think we're working with David over here to reduce our throughput, et cetera, and get the pipes expanded, run multiple streams. But at this point, we're looking to go completely live by January of 2014. So, and we're psyched.
So Mark, what happens whenever you order, you're ready to recall some data from your outsourced provider off-site, and you order a tape, and then you realize it's the wrong tape?
You got to call and get another one.
So how long does it take?
It depends on it could take hours, it could take a day. It depends on how much you want to pay the carrier service to bring the tape to you. Oh, you need another tape, you got to make another phone call, get the tape back. Here, you recall the tapes, you can recall them all within about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, bring them all back. And that's with our backup design, the solution still keeps the data within Riverbed appliance. So when we need to restore data, we don't wait the 4.37 hours to get the data back from the cloud. It's within the appliance. And the appliance has about 2 months worth of data, active data in it. So really, the Glacier expansion, as the solution provides, is more sort of archival, if you will, older data that gets written out. So that basically, if you're archiving data like our monthlies or yearlies, things like that, end up in the Glacier environment.
How many tapes do you guys have in your shop?
Tapes is 8,000 in there. I'm not sure how many are at the Iron Mountain. Probably another 2,000 to 3,000.
8,000 tapes.
Sure.
Probably an average of $70, $80 a piece.
Mm-hmm. And again, they're going to go bad. They're going to get replaced. The ROI is pretty simple. Once you factor in, the tape's got to get replaced. The robotic system's got to get replaced. The tape drives will have to get replaced. They'll come out with new tape drives that, when I'm sure, write the data faster. They'll have to get replaced. The one in our Chicago center will have to get replaced. So it's a lot of maintenance. And once you start going to the Glacier environment, that again, we're still a little surprised that the whole thing, to be honest, worked. It was a great story, and we're all over this.
We are too.
We're all over it.
4 hours storage is awful back.
No, from the Riverbed device, it's instantaneous. It comes right back to the mainframe. It's as fast as you can pull out the data. Actually, faster than writing to it. The 4 hours was to restore from the Glacier back to the Riverbed. Yeah, we had to force it to do that because we didn't have any data that actually expired out of the Glacier, out of the Riverbed device.
So that's good. Thank you. Appreciate that. So that's a compelling case to me. We have other vendors that or other customers that we're working with as well that are also seeing very good results with this. So we're very excited about this. I think it's going to be an industry changer. And he mentioned a little bit about the costs associated with that, so I did put together just a quick and dirty ROI example here for you. In this case, again, very simple, and this is going to depend on your environment, your configuration. You may have all virtual tape, you may have some virtual, some real physical tape, you may have whatever. So in this case, just a middle of the road conservative estimate is about $400K over 3 years. So that's a pretty, if I can recover 1/3, that's about 30-something% in this case. It was about 34%. So if I could recover 1/3 of my cost over 3 years, I think that's pretty compelling, especially in the mainframe environment. I think that's very compelling. So again, I think I thank you, Mark, for telling us a little bit about your experience, and we're going to have more of those types of testimonials to share with you. So with that, what we've done is, again, is we've taken existing best-of-breed softwares and hardwares, and we put them together, and we formed a solution in a very quick time frame. This whole project took about 6 months. I think once we had some groundwork done, but once we got the partners together, this project took about 6 months to get together. And so this could serve as a good example for those of you out there that are trying to do this for your shops. And we have tons to do. There's lots to do with this. But the good news is this was very simple, very much out of the box scenario. We got CA, that's the gateway to the mainframe, and then we've got Riverbed, that's the dedupe factor. We got Amazon, cheap as dirt, storage. What else could you ask for? So with that, I want to end with a really cool pick you up. And so, again, I'm sorry about the humor, but when they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, I just want to say that I don't want you to leave this here. I want you to take this home with you.
Spark change. Embrace the future. Drive higher results by empowering your data center to keep business operations at peak performance every minute, every day. CA Technologies unites System Z and cloud to help you move mainframe data storage into the cloud more quickly and easily, so you can accelerate business results that help drive financial and operational gains. CA Cloud Storage for System Z takes your storage operations to the next level, helping to reduce your dependency on storage hardware by up to 60%. When used with Amazon Web Services Cloud Storage and the Riverbed Whitewater Cloud Storage Gateway, it reduces data center storage costs to pennies per gigabyte, and data protection costs are lowered by up to 80%. Businesses today are operating at a velocity that can result in incredible and sometimes unexpected demands on the dynamic data center. Blending the capabilities of System Z and cloud storage offers you greater flexibility to drive improved business responsiveness. Change how you manage results by creating them. Take control of rocketing storage growth. Access capacity when you need it, on demand, anytime. Stop constantly buying expensive storage hardware. Reduce risk and prevent downtime. Visit ca.com/cloud storage to learn more about how CA Cloud for System Z helps keep your dynamic data center at peak performance.
So are there any questions? We have a little bit of time left, about 10 minutes here, and we'd be glad to entertain any questions that you have. No, everybody gets it? You're going to go out and buy it today, right? Okay, we got some in the back. Okay, thanks very much, appreciate it.